This morning or this afternoon, we were at Bunn's. You were in the zone.
Probably gonna get coffee or something. Hey, look at you.
So, what do I say at this meeting?
Why not?
Huh?
No.
I was filling in for someone, but it looks like,
Barbara. Well,
it looks like they have a quorum.
Steve was really just here for the second agenda, and then he was
And
gonna
then he was
bounce.
gonna go.
Yeah,
Yeah, I have another meeting I have to go to.
Did I hear Lisa speak?
Oh, okay. I'm sure.
I assume somebody was saying.
Steve was.
Yeah, okay.
Michelle, do you know Doris Edwards?
Hi.
Skylar, I'm so sorry.
Michelle Hirsch. Hi, nice to meet
You guys
Nice
met?
to meet you,
She's
too.
a pastor down at Riverview.
Yes.
Sorry, Elder, it's Edwards, I still got you with Edwards.
You got me in Edwards mode,
I
huh?
know, so.
Been 7 years now. I'm married, so.
You gave some value. I haven't really, I haven't said.
This one for-
A beautiful home.
Or-
On stage.
Yeah.
With this like beautiful smile.
Somebody sent me a picture of me and my daughter, because she was on stage, and I grabbed her.
That was
So
cute.
I took it back.
I saw that picture of it.
Elise's computer's not working, she can't.
Right, like-
Okay, but she can-
She's all set. We're recording and yeah, you can start when you want.
Okay. Welcome, everyone. This is our June Public Safety Meeting. I am chairing this on behalf of Tony Davis, as he was not able to be here. We are officially starting the meeting at 6:30. In-house, we have Alderwoman Mohammed, we have Alderwoman Hirsch, we have Alderwoman Worthington, and we have Alderman Chapman. We have a quorum and we're,
I mean, Council President.
and, oh, I'm sorry, we have Council President Andrew Schaaf here as well. Yes. Okay, so I guess we'll just get right into it. The first item today that we're going to be discussing is per the mayor, and it is ADA accessible parking. The request is from the mayor, and it's at 115 Green Street. And just looking at the notes here, it is a business. And I guess one of the employees there has had difficulty parking nearby, and so I guess they're asking for consideration to put an ADA accessible parking spot there. Yes.
Okay, so I looked through the agenda and I saw that, there was a lot of the same requests. Previous council had told us, corporation council had told us that it always had to be connected.
I did look into that and that is, they researched it, it is not true.
Okay.
Before.
Okay,
So that's just kind of what we have done, is have the permit, but really anybody can park any place, if they have a permit, you can park any place, so that it's not really attached to it. So
Right.
close it out.
but, so the issue is though, that isn't reserved for the person, like say this employee, right?
Somebody else.
Somebody else with a parking.
And I did, so I was on this communication when the mayor was asking about it, because he wasn't sure about how it could work for a business. And I did tell them that, and he passed that on, so they're aware of that. And the same thing on item 3, it's also a business. Same idea, the constituents are aware that, yeah, anybody can
Okay.
use it, but yeah, I did check with work.
Okay. I don't want anyone to have the wrong impression that.
Yeah, but, yeah, they are aware of this to businesses. And we also told them that council hasn't really approved the handicap plan for businesses before. Or I think we did once for a doctor's office fairly recently, and that was really the first one we did. But I think it was mostly because previous corporation council couldn't do it,
Right,
which is not the case.
but we were told that we couldn't do it.
Correct. So that this council now needs to just decide if it's something that you want to start doing, is offering handicap parking on the street for businesses. Tonight, because you have two of them.
Oh. Well, wouldn't a business be able, I'm just thinking off the top of my head, that if a business has an employee that needs a spot, then it's sort of like an ADA accommodation, even though it's a public.
Yeah, but I mean, it's the same thing that you were saying, you can't guarantee that they get
Right.
it, so it's better, but it's not a perfect solution.
But does that apply even if the person is, I shouldn't say just an employee, but usually it's at their residence that they're allowed a handicap spot?
So say I have a handicap parking in front of my house, council approved of it because I have a handicap
Right.
permit and my permit is attached to that communication. If my neighbor also has a handicap sign, they could use that spot.
Right.
It's
Can you-
not
My
my.
question is not, I know at your residence, that's good, but
Right,
is that, can you get a handicap spot if you're working at a business? Can you get a handicap spot,
just for you.
or can you apply for a handicap spot at a place of business? It's not your residence.
Well, that's what
I
they're
think that's
doing.
always been the question, and I'm not sure what the legality is of it.
I did ask for counsel and it is okay. We
It
can
is,
do it,
okay.
it's just that it wouldn't be 100% dedicated to that individual because
Right.
same thing with the residents, it's street parking. We can't say this is for Steve Shabbat only.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, but with residents, most times when people have a handicapped parking spot in front of their house, people usually honor that and say it's for that particular
Exactly.
resident. But with businesses, how are you, I mean, you
Fair.
can't stop anybody
Yeah,
from parking there if they have a sticker.
Right,
that's exactly it. And you know, if businesses have a parking lot, a dedicated parking lot, they typically have spaces reserved for handicap parking and
Right, but
you know, but
this
now
is-
we're talking about, yeah, so we're talking about on-street parking where we are potentially giving a designated handicap spot, which, you know, part of me is 100% okay with, but then the flip side of that is now what, you know, wormhole effect are we gonna have with this where now every single business potentially would want a dedicated handicap spot for right in front of their particular business? Right, wrong, or indifferent, I mean, like I said, we just have to look at the whole picture of it. And in this particular instance, it is for someone who works there, but as we've all just kind of stated, there is no guarantee that that employee is guaranteed to get that parking spot. Like, we can say, yes, this parking spot, you know, we'll put right in front of 115 Green Street, but
But
you
the
know.
other person works there at the store.
yeah, from what this says, yeah, the person does work at, so the actual
So
request.
his car would be parked there while he's.
Hopefully, but you know, like if I start my job at 9 o'clock and, you know, Tim, who works 2 businesses down from me, starts at 8:30 and he's like, oh, well, you know, I used to have to park a couple blocks down the road. Now there's a handicap spot within 50 feet. Again, there's no guarantee because we can't, from our perspective, say, okay, this handicap spot is dedicated only for, 115 Green Street, their employee.
but it's still better than nothing.
Oh, no, it's 100% better than nothing, because statistically, you should be able to get it.
Right,
As long as the business owner knows that, they can't prevent anybody else that has a sticker from parking.
Yeah,
Mhm.
and if memory serves me, correct, a couple of years ago, somebody applied, and they actually wanted a sign that said reserved for whatever this business is. So we said no to that,
Mhm.
right.
but
Is there like any kind of provision, do we know, from Corporation Council, like, of like a total number of parking, on-street parking, a percentage should be handicapped?
Ooh. In the whole city. Yeah, that's a good question. I don't know. That was, I never thought of asking them that.
I'm sure Barbara would be happy to.
Yeah,
Have her intern to it.
Well, I'm good with this, I'm good with any handicap spot.
Oh, of
and
course.
Making any, business or part of our city more ADA compliant and, having accessibility.
Yeah, and they are aware of the issue, but it's not 100%, it's not perfect. And they didn't pull out of the request, so I imagine that they're okay with it.
now I will say, there have been people on the council who will vote no And the reasoning being that they feel we are subsidizing a private business by giving them a parking spot there, even though it's not really a dedicated spot. You know, that technically, you know, we might prefer that a business owner have off-street parking. That's not always a viable solution though in this city.
Yeah.
Any parking. So I'm just putting that out there because it's, you know, we've been down this road before. And that's another reason, you know, as Michael says, you know, we've always said, and what's gonna happen, you know,
Well, the only.
we're gonna get a rash of people asking for it.
The only difference is, where I would disagree with you is that this is not just a parking spot.
Yeah.
This is a
Right.
handicap parking spot.
Yeah,
Mhm.
So, and if if the business has an employee there that is,
yeah,
you can make the case.
yeah, I'm not the one that said.
Whoever,
Yeah.
whoever councilman said. So if it was just a regular parking spot, then I think that we would have to think about it differently.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I really don't have much of an issue. I mean, handicapped people, you know, certainly deserve the parking and, you know, I would err on the side of caution to allow that. So.
Okay, is there any other questions anyone has while we're here?
I was just looking at the DMV website and it does not seem to be something like a state law or anything about. It usually, the requirements for handicap parking are off street, so what we would be doing would be like going above and beyond.
Okay, so I'm just going to read this. And it states request for ADA accessible parking spot at 115 Green Street. Can I have a motion to discuss?
Motion?
Who's on the committee here tonight?
Yeah.
I don't know if I'm voting.
Yes, vote for Tony, you could vote for Barbara, and
Okay.
then because you're on the committee, right?
Yeah. So motion?
I'll make a motion.
Michelle?
Okay, all right. All right, any questions? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, motion is passed. I will pass this around. And then they would just cross out their names with the name of the person they're representing. Okay. Okay, so item number 2 is a request that parking in front of the entrance to the church at 240 Catherine Street be reserved for members of her congregation with disabilities. So we actually have 2 people here to discuss it. So I will open the floor to them.
Reverend, you want to go first or you want me to lead in?
Whatever you'd like to do.
All right, let me I'll give a little background in case you didn't have time to read the communication. The Reverend called and asked if we would consider, I guess it would be handicap spot in front of her church where people come and go all day that are disabled. But for various programs, it would be all day and into the evening and even sometimes late at night, right? You know, so they can use the front entrance of the church. They do have a private parking lot in the back, you know, but it means it's quite a hike around to the front. And it's pretty dark there, I think, too, at night. So she is looking for a way to get some better parking, you know, for the handicapped individuals to get into church. So I did discuss it with John, you know, a little bit. We really didn't come up with a solution. That's I said, I'm just going to refer it here. You know, maybe somebody might have an idea that's not crossing my mind, because we have the same questions about subsidizing, you know, something. But anyway, I figured we would put it out on the table and, you know, have some discussion and see if someone has an idea. Do you want to add anything to that, Pastor?
Well, it just, the area that I'm talking about, is also, curbs. You know, the curb comes down to roadside,
Right.
and we have, one handicap individual individual that needs, need to get out at that particular point and be able to have access, to that curved area, and then we have two handicap parking spaces in the back. But like I said, these individuals there, they need something out front in the curved area.
Yeah. And the Reverend also told me there's another issue. And while it may be rude, it's not illegal. One of the neighbors likes to pull his recreational vehicles or trailers onto the street by the church on the weekends. Leaves them there all weekend. Not illegal, but not very friendly, right? So, if there was some kind of reserved spot for these folks, then we wouldn't have to worry about that.
Go ahead.
How many parking spots are there in front of the church? Are they actually dedicated parking spots right now? So it's just open. So we would need to essentially convert that section, or are we looking for one? Are we looking for like a section in front of the whole church to dedicate towards that? Because this is, again, these are questions that we're gonna need, the lines would have to be painted blue.
Mhm. Well, I'm sorry.
That's like,
Stephen, he did come down to the church, and I basically showed him the area and, what we could possibly use. I've asked a number of times, not to park there. Got a lot of vehicles, and, it takes up space for people to get in, but I think it would be like a little stretch for us there.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I think we measured it. I think John measured it also. I don't know. It's probably about, I'm gonna guess 30, 40 feet.
Somewhere around it.
Yeah.
so my question was, just like thinking about the situation where you have someone coming and blocking versus people needing, is it actual parking? Are they the people with the handicapping conditions, are they the actual driver? Or could it be a loading or unloading zone that's
Well,
kept open and then the car, parks in the parking lot in the back?
That was something John and I discussed also, kind of what we did with East Square.
Right.
We put a loading zone there, but I think we have limited hours there, right? If I
Right.
remember correctly, right? It's during the day when the school buses pull up, I think.
I believe so.
Yeah. And that was actually creating a hazard there. That was one of the reasons I think
Could something like that be where you have the hours of loading zone there?
Well,
And then-
I mean, to have a loading zone means, that you unload there, but you can't park there.
Right.
Okay, so, the individual that, I'm talking about, his mother is like 88 years old, and he's in his 50s, and, he's very, very limited to, his ability to move out, so, he holds on to a walker, a 4-prong walker that is, probably the width of his body. And it's very difficult for him to even step up. So that area where it's indentation there, curb, that's where he's able to,
Come onto the sidewalk.
yes, be mobile, at that point, and his mom might pull up a little, pull up a little more, but she also has,
So that spot right there, if you were to put a handicap sticker there, parking sign there, it'd just be one spot, like how much would it take up? Because that curved area, you would want it close to that or near that or in front of that, right?
well, the curved area, facing the church.
Facing the front of the church.
from the church, right?
The pole to the right. You picture that?
I'm trying, where the,
The pole to the right, at the end of the building, pole to the right,
Uh-huh.
parallel or, no, perpendicular, boom, like that. That's where the curb is, and it goes all the way to the next building, the old building. That's where that area is.
All right,
So,
Can it be reserved for a certain amount of hours? Not always, but as in like, no parking here from
Looks like
Sunday, from.
we're looking it up on Google Maps right now to try and get a better idea.
Can I just clarify, get something clarified? Is there parking on that street now, or is there?
Yes.
yeah,
Yeah,
There is parking allowed
both
on that
sides.
street.
both sides.
Well, no, actually, we've always tried to exercise when we have, a lot of people there at the service, that you just park on the side of, next to the building rather than across the street, because if you do that, if you park on both sides, it's narrow, and if there's an emergency, they will not be able to get through, so we.
but there's no sign that says that it's one side parking.
No,
I've seen cars on both sides.
Yeah.
No, that's definitely go too
Yeah.
close.
You know, especially like funerals, things like that, we try to get them to park only on one side.
Sometimes our signage does not.
Given that he has
I don't
mobility
know, I think
issues,
John-
I would be afraid
I think John will.
Yeah.
he's dedicated as
Can somebody, I didn't bring my,
somebody else.
this is the stretch.
Right,
we're talking
yeah.
about, right?
I like no
All right.
parking.
Okay, so Quincy,
Yeah.
right here,
Yeah, the.
right
Yep.
there, to
do you
the
mind
next
finding
building.
out the code?
And that's the,
and
that's
what
our
it
station,
actually-
that's our
you've got the
station,
code.
that's
I didn't bring
our.
my computer with me
But it's
tonight.
right here, that pole, pole,
Really, sometimes our
all
signage
the way to
doesn't
this
match
building.
what's in the
This is the
code,
part
so
dedicated, not the whole strip.
there's no
Just this part right
signage
here.
here.
Whatever part with that you, if you say yes to that part, that'll be great. But if I want both
Yeah.
parts and
That's-
somebody's gonna say no, then I don't want both parts. I
Well, I
just want,
thought you-
I just want to,
Catherine.
Catherine Street, I just want them to be able to get out and park right there where they need to park.
So Michelle brought up a good point. If we dedicated a handicap sign there, again, you can't tell anyone that doesn't have a permit not to park there,
Right,
right?
right.
So what I'm saying, it may take up, what if someone is parked there doing service time? And so maybe a no parking sign for a dedicated amount of hours may work best
I think
rather than a
what
handicap sign.
the Reverend's reasoning is they have a lot of programming all day and probably, yeah, I would dare say,
Yeah, on the
you know,
Sundays.
evenings, probably only from midnight to 8, you don't have something going
Right.
on, right? So that's why she's looking for the long term, not just for service hours,
Yeah,
but,
yeah, I understand.
I understand that we can't, prevent anybody else from parking there,
Right.
but we can help deter the parking that we're dealing with now,
Now,
because they don't have handicap at all.
So we're looking for, so we're looking for a handicap sign. That's what you're looking for.
I'm looking up the address on this other program that gives me actual,
So there's,
footage?
yeah, like I can actually zoom in and,
Oh.
well, to an extent here, it's not really.
all I could find was Catherine Street, no parking or standing anytime from Tompkins to Sycamore, the south side.
Steve, can you help us with that?
That's on the opposite side.
Yeah, that's.
But that's down, that's on the other side, right?
yeah. Yeah, that's quite a hike to church.
All right, so there is no restriction, thank you.
I mean, I think the handicap sign is appropriate. I guess it's just the logistics of knowing that someone could park there and then, because it makes sense. For it to be easier. Like
Yeah.
mom and.
I don't have a problem with handicap.
Yeah.
Whatever is easier. That curve, unfortunately, well, it's not unfortunate, but because it almost looks like a driveway. But the building is right in back of it, so people won't treat it like a driveway.
Years ago, before, the new section was purchased. Well, say when I was a little girl, and that wasn't very long ago, but, there was a barn there. And, it was like a garage, like a three-car garage, so when they tore all of that down, they just kept that
I'm just trying.
the way it was.
Yeah.
This is saying it's about 53 feet. So I mean, the way it looks on here is we're looking at about a 53-foot section of parking. And it does look like it is a curb cutout, as in there should have been like a parking spot there at some point to
There was
pull
an
into.
old garage there
Yeah.
years ago.
So, I mean, so from the looks of it, it looks like if we were to do anything, we're looking at a handicap section of possibly 2 cars in that zone. So, I mean, I guess we would have to look at the possibility of signage and then maybe like the blue line that they paint to dedicate that, this particular area is a handicap area. This is more of a question for everyone else than, but is there, like, do we have to get John involved in this again? Is this something that we can, like?
Our policy is that the engineer gives us his opinion.
Mhm.
Doesn't mean that we have to follow it, so I mean, we could have something since he's not here. And then check in with him, and then at caucus, it could change people's mind or it could not. We don't have to, our policy is just to get their opinion, not to follow it.
So John didn't look at this yet.
No, I do have,
Well, he did, but it wasn't really I think it was, do you want to jump in? Because this is my thing, so what did John have to say?
I think John's, we're gonna test my memory here, because it's been a while already. I think John said he doesn't see anything illegal about that. It's just if we wanna do it. He couldn't recall a handicap section like that before, but I don't believe he thinks we can't do it. He said it would just be up to the council to say, yeah, that's what we're gonna do.
And we do have to give specific locations.
Well, that's what I asked, how do we do that,
I
I wasn't sure of the,
Ed was the one that got it for you, right? So
Yeah.
I would reach out to Ed and see, because I did one before, Naima needed help with that one because it was the same thing, it didn't have an exact address.
Well, John.
Or John,
Yeah,
John was the one, so just ask John, like, because it needs to say it on the committee report, because then that has to go to DPW, and then that has to go, right, they have to be
Yeah.
pulled.
my,
So it'd be like, what was it, like, points?
No parking on the west side.
yeah.
But yeah, west side points of, I would just probably pass it with saying something like, to be determined.
Well, my suggestion would be if we do want to actually move forward with this today, is we just say, dedicate handicap parking locations on the curb cut area in front of 240 Catherine Street, because there is a curb cut area right in front of that that's what we're basing everything
Do you
off
want,
of in this communication. I don't know if that would be enough for them.
do you want me to call Ed and
Sure, I mean,
like remind?
does the sanctuary have a different address like the other building you were showing me on there? Is that a
So it's
separate?
all the same.
So that whole section is 240, okay. Yeah, because I mean,
So then why wouldn't we be able to use 240?
well, we could, but well, because there's
And there's a
other,
quick
there's
question about writing a committee report. and
curb
making sure
area,
we get
and there's a
that
curb
for
cut
the
area,
report.
and then there's
Like,
another
put it
curb
on
area.
speaker?
So the
Oh,
part
so
that
you
we're,
want that, you want us.
The curb cut.
Which curb?
well, the
Alright,
curb
well,
cut,
we're
here,
looking to
this is
put,
what,
a handicap sign on Catherine Street
So,
for a church.
she's not talking about here or here.
So we're
this-
just
but
making
this is
sure
curb
that
cut.
the language.
So that's what I'm saying, like, in the language, we would say, we dedicated the curb cut area at 240 Catherine Street as ADA or handicap parking. That way, this section right here,
how long,
it's about,
can you figure that out? How long that is?
it's about 53 feet. So
No,
it's
no,
about
no,
two
not
parking
to,
spots.
you don't have to give us the exact coordinates. No, unless we got to speak to Michael.
Okay. Hey, Ed. Good. So basically, the question is here, I think we're kind of all in agreement with the vernacular we would like to use. but there is a curb cut section in front of 240 Catherine Street that's about 53 feet. And what we're looking to do is dedicate that curb cut section to handicap parking. So the way it would be written in the agenda or the committee report is that the curb cut location at 240 Catherine Street is dedicated handicap parking. Now, would that be sufficient enough for your crew? Because it like, if you look at, we're looking at Google Maps right now, and there's a section that's curved, there's the curb cut section we're referring to, and then there's the curb again. 240.
Doris, how does that work for you?
Oh, great, great.
Utility strip.
What do you, well, so there's a building with some poles right in the front, and I believe that's the front of the church. That's the Riverview Church, and then there's kind of a gap, and then there's the other building. So right in between those two buildings, if you look on Google Maps, you'll see that section of the sidewalk is actually a curb cut. Yep, that's the section that we're talking about dedicating for handicap parking. Yeah, I mean, I have a terrible overhead view, but it works out to be, from my vantage point, it works out to be about 50 odd feet. But again, that could be wrong.
From beginning of the curb cut to end of curb cut.
Okay,
In front of 240 Catherine.
okay. All right.
If it's less than 50 feet, you don't have any issue with it?
No, it's basically that entire curb cut strip is what we're looking for to be the dedicated handicap parking. Regardless of the actual footage, that's the location that we're looking for it on. All right,
Just two points, stones and,
okay. All right, thank you, sir.
all right.
Thank you.
So is everyone, are you good with that?
I'm happy.
Okay, all right, so I guess I'm going to write this up as the curb cutout location at 240 Catherine Street will be dedicated as handicap parking.
The beginning of the curb cut. is
Yes.
the curb cut.
Okay.
You got it?
What?
You have it?
I think so.
They making you work today, Michael.
Yeah.
Really, they said darker than you.
Public safety people usually don't.
Yeah, they usually have to read theirs.
Sorry, I just wanted to make sure because there's been a couple handicap signs of recent past where the wording wasn't exact and it had to come back to us. So I figured go right to the source.
Be safe than sorry.
So it reads, the beginning of the curb cut to the end of the curb cut at 240 Catherine Street be dedicated as handicap parking. Okay. Do I have a motion? Rita Worthington, do I have a second? Steve Shep, all right. Any discussion?
Would you put that as the motion?
Rita,
Oh, yeah.
and you seconded, yep. Any discussion? No? All in favor? Aye. Any opposed?
Yeah.
Ayes have it, and so ordered and carried.
Huh?
It'll take a little bit to get it, because our next council meeting is July 12th, it has to be voted on, and then it has to go to DPW, they have to get approval to dig. So it'll probably still be a month before you see it.
Yeah, it has to go before more than just a scoff face, it's gotta go. Yeah, so,
Well, I just want to thank everybody, you know.
No, it's, yeah.
Yeah, it shouldn't be, I don't think it'd be, it should be going before.
No.
Full council, it's still gotta go.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Well, thank you very much for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, appreciate it, have a nice evening.
take care.
Good luck in your next meeting.
Yes.
All right, Steve, sign that. Sit down. All right, next item up is ADA accessible parking, and this is from Andrea. And we are talking about 21 O'Neill Street, and there is a lot of correspondence with this, so I'm just gonna pass it on to her.
Yeah, it came to me, I don't know, a year and a half ago, but then it was paused, and so he brought it back for a business that they put on pause with during COVID, and then they're bringing it back. And they're asking for a handicap sign or handicap parking for their business, it's a beer garden on O'Neill Street.
What business is this?
It's a beer garden.
Beer garden. So it's like a brewery.
Now, where is that gonna be? Where's it? Not my uncle's auto body shop, is
So there,
Across from Voices?
Oh, yeah, that's my uncle's.
yeah, so it looks like it's right here. Thank you.
Yeah, the owner said somebody, quite a while ago, said somebody was interested in putting a brewery in there. I hadn't heard anything in a while.
Oh, it looks like they have succeeded in creating a whole
And
beer garden.
apparently it was Sue Cahill who told them to come to us, and that's how he got my contact and reached out and asked for this. So we don't need to repeat everything. I explained the whole thing where it's, council hasn't really done this for businesses in the past, very, very recently, and it is not a guarantee. So the constituent is aware of these, and I just said it'd be up to the committee on what the committee wants to do to the council, so.
Sure. Now, from what I gathered from earlier, prior councils have said, or committees have said no, because they were under the impression that corporate council said that they could not do it. That's what I gathered from the first one we were talking about.
Well, I think that was obviously a big part of it. I also just think it was, I don't know, I guess it was that, because the core council saying it needs a permit. And
That's what we listened to.
Yeah.
Turns out that wasn't the case, but when they were saying it.
Sure.
That's why
And
we,
again,
that one, we eventually did give them parking. Eventually, didn't we? Did they
The
work
first one we did was for the doctor's office that you brought. to us.
Yeah, that was the first one, right?
I believe so.
Yeah.
I think other conversations have come out from former council members just saying that this does open up a can of worms.
Yeah.
But is that a bad can of worms?
well, and that's,
To have one handicap sign, but this one is also different because the first one was for an employee. That one was, it's.
Right, and this
They're all-
one
each
is
one is-
for the particular business, yeah.
particular business.
And my personal opinion on this, I don't have a problem, but as I said earlier, and as, Andrea has touched on this as well, we are kind of opening the doors to every business in Kingston saying, hey, I want a dedicated spot in front of my business. Again, I don't have an issue with it, but I'm just saying this is something we do have to
Yeah.
kind of, Michelle.
Yes, I was just wondering why Sue sent him, like, was it something in their plan or, proposal or,
He said that the planning board and Sue said in order to get a handicap sign, they have to come through.
because they were requesting it?
Well,
That they
because
wanted it, or the planning
Oh.
board thought that they should have one? Like
No, I
what?
don't know
Okay.
where it came from.
Yeah, the communication here, I'm just looking at it, was from 2020. And it says Susan Cahill at Planning recommended I reach out. I'm in the process of getting approval for a new craft beer bar at 21 O'Neill Street. We're going to need to apply for one handicap space in front of the building. Can you tell me where I can email my request. So I don't know. I don't know if they're saying we need to apply as in, we're mandated to apply, or, hey, we need to apply for this.
Is there,
Doesn't
can we
put a
find
site
that out?
plan. Yeah.
I interpret that as they asked for it and Sue said recommended to become the council, because it's not like, because that's never happened before. So Sue is, planning has never said you have to have it on, otherwise we would have to have a lot more, we would have known it.
And that's my thought process on
So
that too.
Me
Like,
too. Is it part of the site plan or?
is it, yeah,
Yeah.
but then again, if it was part of the site plan, like, why is this now all of a sudden coming in where every new business that opens up in Kingston, I would assume would have had to do the same thing?
And I thought that would not be, this would be on the street.
I'm assuming it would be on-street parking, yeah.
So, I mean, dedicated handicap parking spaces that go through the site planning review, I would think that would be a parking lot. They're
Yeah,
off parking, they had not that it would be, I just can't see planning saying that you have to have one dedicated handicap spot in front of your business.
Yeah. Which, yeah, and I kind of agree, which is making me lean towards them saying, hey, we want an ADA parking spot in front. Can we do it? And then, Susan
Well,
said,
is there any way that we can find out?
I can follow up with Sue.
Yeah.
Like I said, my interpretation was just very, I saw it this way because otherwise we would have seen it before. But I could follow up if we want to table this
So,
and we
yeah.
come back to it.
Yeah.
Well, I think
That's definitely gonna make a difference on the way we vote.
Yeah.
So I'm asking Sue how, if she's saying that this has to happen, they're mandating it in order for it to be
Right.
approved.
That's a huge difference.
Right.
And it says here they're not opening till October.
Oh, so we have
So
time,
we have
if you guys
time,
want to table it, is it,
Yeah.
it
It says we're finally starting construction, hoping to open in October.
Do you,
And this was dated in May 16, 2022.
do you have any other questions that you want me to?
no, I think this is valuable information to find out, like, if they're stating this, if a business is relying on-street parking, is it the planning board that's saying you need to dedicate a handicap spot, or is it just the individual business saying, hey, we would like that?
And there is off-street parking.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm looking
I don't know if they have one in their own parking lot. The parking lot's only 10 feet away from the curb.
I will reach out to Sue and let everybody know.
Yeah, yeah.
So motion.
It would definitely be good to know.
So, motion to table this until we get further information. Do I have a motion, Naeem? Do I have a second? Rita? So I'm here.
And then you just ask for the vote, and then that's it.
Okay,
You take the vote.
okay. All in favor of curbing this?
No pun intended.
Yeah.
And then you don't have to write that down, we'll just,
So-
it'll be old business for now.
So there's nothing that goes on that. Okay.
Maybe
We've been doing motions for table.
All right. The next one on here is a no parking request, and this is from Alderwoman Mohammed. So I will, again, pass this on to her.
So the Family Inn is requesting a no parking sign on Greenfield Ave due to cars parking too close to their entrance, and which management isn't able to pick up their garbage. So this has been an issue for a long time. Someone stopped me while I was campaigning about it. So it's been an issue for over a year. And it's deemed appropriate, and John suggested the location sign should read, no parking on the west side of Railroad Avenue from a point 50 feet northeast of the intersection with Fashion Lane to the end of the street. This would leave enough room for one car to park on that side of the road close to the Fashion Lane, while keeping the needed clearance from the curb cut for the solid, for the waste collection.
So my immediate question is, I can't see the sign saying all that. So is it actually just gonna say no parking from here to curb?
I believe so.
Yeah, and then so on a committee report, I would write all that, but
That goes-
the actual sign would just say no parking here to curb at that location. Okay. Anyone have any other input?
Got the garbage.
Yeah,
That's an issue.
okay, so I'm gonna write this verbatim as it says here, and then we will, I'll reread it and then we'll go. Okay, so just give me a minute, talk amongst yourselves.
One, three. Well, there's one. There's
Did you see People's Place is gonna do an open mic?
No.
I can see y'all there singing.
Oh, yeah.
After we go to
Yeah,
get some garbage.
I can't remember what it's in July, I just saw it in passing, so I thought that's cool, because I was just talking with somebody about how, yeah, there's no open mics in Kingston anymore, and that's all.
all right, so I finished writing. So the report will read, no parking on the west side of Railroad Avenue from a point 50 feet northeast of the intersection with Fashion Lane to the end of the street. Do I have a motion?
Like to discuss?
Or,
Yes, me.
yes. Any second?
Steve.
Any discussion?
I will recuse myself since I work with family and stuff.
Okay. All right, so all in favor? Any opposed? Okay. Flying through this, and then do I have to write anywhere? Michelle,
Yeah, just put a recusal under her name, like,
okay, I'm gonna pass this on. Okay, we are on to old business now. And it shows here, first order of old business is a stop sign request by Alderman Davis, who is not here, but the request says, I've been approached to consider placing stop signs at the intersection of Rentham and Hinsdale and Rentham and Plainsfield Street. And
I'm sorry, did you get the update? It was sent to me, Tony, and Lisa, and Lisa forwarded it, but it was like, came in at 6 o'clock.
today,
Yeah,
I
did
did
you all get that email that was forwarded?
Looking.
Or, it's from John.
oh, yes, that I did get, and that's what I was about to read.
Oh,
So even though Tony is not here to discuss this matter further, we did get an update from John regarding a couple issues that we were talking about as far as old business goes. So he wrote, in regards to Rentham, I have not yet had a chance to visit the site at peak times to observe the movements. However, traffic engineering principles will likely not support the added stop signs at Plainfield and Hinsdale due to the volume of the side streets being much lower than on Rentham. So in John's opinion, they were not going to add the stop signs, and I guess he said traffic engineering principles will not support it due to the volume of the side streets being much lower than on Rentham.
I'm not sure what that means.
So he doesn't
He doesn't recommend it, and what he's saying is, I guess, because the side streets at those intersections don't get a lot of traffic. So it's their opinion that it's not needed. It's not necessary because the traffic going across the other sides isn't at the volume to designate, okay, you know, we should have stop signs here because there's so much traffic coming through that it's, in his opinion, it's not needed. And
And when
again,
things
that's,
aren't necessary, that people just.
Exactly.
Yes.
That, there's studies that say that's the real thing.
My daughter lives in that neighborhood, and I know there's a couple streets around there that people go flying.
Yeah.
But anyway, I would suggest, since John is putting a negative spin on it, and Tony's the one that brought this forward, maybe we should table it and let Tony have his say.
I'm fine with that because again, Tony's really not here. The only communication I have is the email that was sent to.
And I'm sure Tony didn't get a chance to see that, so
Yeah,
I think that's.
So
I think we want to give him a chance to speak.
okay. So motion to curb the stop sign request and due to Tony not being here, motion by Michelle, second by Steve. Okay, so we're going to curb that.
Right.
Right. We are. All right. So the next in old business is the Broadway cycle track. Hirsch, this is regarding the letter that you got from Tanya Garment.
I thought we already
Discuss
moved
this.
on,
I
yeah.
thought this was moved on
Yeah.
too, but I wasn't at the last meeting, so I didn't.
Yeah, I think.
Well, I thought we curbed it because we never got any of the figures or anything in relation from John. So I believe we had
Well, it's
curbed
because
it.
the mayor wants to give it a year, he wants to
Okay.
give the safety plan time to have an effect.
Okay, and
So this should have been on. So I'll make sure that that's off.
okay, so do we,
Nothing.
absolutely nothing. That's. All right, so the final order of business is a Golden Hill update from John. Again, he's not here, so I can read basically the notes that he sent us last time. And it just says, regarding Golden Hill, I have no further update. I believe the planning department is working with the applicant on restricting access to Glen Street and with improvements to the boulevard connection. The only thing I can add to that is, I've had several of the constituents on Glen Street reach out to me and stress how much they want the restricting access from Glen Street to Golden Hill Drive, because the people fly through there. And as someone who works on Golden Hill Drive, I can tell you, as we just discussed earlier, stop signs don't exist. People fly through them, so I can understand firsthand the concerns that the constituents would have on that narrow road.
Now, do we know, the county intends on building this? Do we know that they're not going to put any restrictions in place or not going to put any kind of safety hazards in?
From what I've gathered, the problem with all this is the county owns the property, but the city, because it falls within city limits, the city is the one that has the streets. So I don't want to, it's like a finger pointing thing. Well, it's county owned, but it's city property, and so they're kind of going back and forth. I don't want to say anything because it's not my,
Yeah,
I'm not an expert on it.
But the county has also held public hearings on this as well. And they've heard comments about, what should be done there for safety reasons. So I'm just wondering, maybe they might be intending on putting something there.
It could be, and from what the one constituent reached out to me and spoke about, it does appear that is going to happen. This was just, I guess John was just giving us his report on what he's heard. I think they're trying to figure out exactly how they're going to restrict access to that intersection, but also allowing for emergency vehicles to be able to get through. So I think that's just, again, this is my opinion. I think they're just trying to iron out exactly how they are going to restrict access to that road. I think it's been agreed upon that it will be restricted, but the semantics of how they're doing it is still open. Yes, Andrea, please.
I didn't mean to interrupt.
No.
Maybe a suggestion, does anybody know, if there's anybody in this room, the planning board liaison, does that you?
Yeah.
Maybe, because John hasn't had an update in a while, maybe if you want to talk to Sue and see if she could give us an update, and then if everybody still wants to be updated on this issue, maybe do it that way, have a liaison either in caucus or, we do the Anything else for liaison stuff? Just because I think we might get more of these answers from Sue at this point than from John.
Okay.
Yeah, it's certainly stuff we should know before we vote on it.
And just to pass on to, yeah, maybe not be voting on it, but just to be
Yeah.
passing on when people reach out, so.
That's it? That's all we have for,
And I, so, is everybody okay, I know this is kind of a hodgepodge, public safety committee, but, with substitutes, but, should we take off this Golden Hill update then?
Yeah, I think, I mean,
yeah, because the update only says I have no update.
right, this is John, and now we're asking Sue for an update, yeah.
Right,
Yeah, my impression is things had resolved past the point of us having put it on the agendas.
yeah, I just rather have it on. If I wasn't at the last meeting to be absolutely sure when I see it's on the list, I don't, so anyway. I will have those 2 items removed for next time, and then 2 items tabled.
Yeah, until we actually get the
Yeah.
further. So, we gotta end it. All right, so does anyone have anything else they need to bring up, anything like that? All right, so motion to end the meeting. Steve, wow. I saw so many hands go up at the same time. Everyone at the same time? Seconded by.
Participation.
Nice job, Mike.
Thank you. Meeting is over at night. Military time. Yeah, 7:25 PM.
Easy, right?
Not too bad. I had help. Thank you all.
Oh.